You've touched a little bit on planet Earth and ecological health, and I'm interested in an ecological perspective on this, because we're part of an ecosystem as well as a social system. So I just wondered if you had any more reflections on that in terms of trauma, but also the role of human trauma on our ecological health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's individual trauma, and then there's social trauma. Okay, it's the next level. And social trauma is that trauma that happens beyond the family. Okay, it's larger than the family. So then it can be national trauma. And then global trauma. Okay? Now, global trauma is the kind of overwhelming event that affects the whole biosphere. So the first one that I was aware of was when they had the meltdown at Chernobyl. That event clearly went far beyond the borders of Russia, and it was one of the key factors on the collapse of the former Soviet Union. The Berlin Wall came down, so forth and so on. But the toxins also from Chernobyl were experienced worldwide, in some places more intensely than others. And it began to bring a consciousness that borders aren't necessarily boundaries when it comes to these kinds of global catastrophes. We had another one with the Boxing Day tsunami that affected 11 countries, and it was the largest national tragedy in recent Swedish history. Okay, it happened in Southeast Asia. So this tsunami was felt worldwide, and the planet felt it. The planet actually wobbled on its axis, and the rotation of the biosphere has been permanently altered as a result of that. Because we have global media now, we're also aware of the fact that we are all on this biosphere, and that what happens in one place affects another. Perhaps not to the degree that we need to be, but it's beginning. And I think actually it began when we got that first photograph of the Earth from space. That beautiful floating blue marble planet. It's like, oh, we're all on this. And it's interconnected. And one of the reasons I'm so attached to systems and trauma is because everything is system. Everything is related to everything else, and that includes the biosphere, which now is clearly overwhelmed. We have too many people. We have an uneven distribution of resources. We have a mounting level of environmental toxins, and we also have threats from outer space. So the solution is to pay attention, I suppose. And that's a tall order. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would be grateful for any reflections you may have on dealing with what we could call cultural trauma. Because in my own work, I have found that when an individual releases something, that can certainly spread through the family, yes, as observed by changes. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, how on earth are we going to deal with whole cultural trauma? For example, the victim consciousness, which is with us now. Is it enough that a few individuals change, or is there some other way forward to change these belief patterns which are behind our disturbance at the moment?
Mm-hmm. I think victim consciousness is a worldwide problem. It's a barrier to resolution. It does lead to cycles of violence. And one of the characteristics of victim consciousness is the lack of perception of options. that one of the interventions that can be made is to introduce options so that people know they have a choice to do something other than what they've always done, or to go into cycles of repetition and revenge. So it's about introducing options, and how to do that varies enormously according to the culture. Yeah.
I was just saying about victim consciousness. I've often thought when patients come to me and they say, "Oh, I've had an accident," I think if we said, "I've had an on purpose," instead of accident, then you'd see it totally differently, wouldn't you? You'd take a bit more responsibility. I know.
Well, first of all, I've never had a patient say that to me.
Nor have I, but I was just thinking, if we did, if collectively we all took a bit more responsibility.
Well, there is something called the unconscious.
Yes, I know.
And the problem with the unconscious is that it's unconscious.
Yes, but you could help. I mean, it's just an idea that I've had, that you could maybe help bring it to a slightly less deep level of subconscious.
I know. But, one has to be very careful with people who've had accidents because they tend to blame themselves anyway. And I think something like that coming from the therapist could be seen as shaming, confrontational, judgmental. What happened when my patients began to see they were having these repetitive accidents on dates? They got interested. They got curious. They thought, something's going on. I'm in a movie I didn't know I was in. And I want out of this movie because this is a bad movie. And they got interested. So it was like they got interested that something larger than themselves was happening, and that the accident wasn't just about them making a mistake.
I'm not saying in any way that it's about blame or judgment. Just about seeing that, as you say, you're part of a field that is interrelated.
Well, it is.
Yeah, and so I just feel that by saying, "I've had an accident," it isolates you.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
Victim system.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the legal system will help you with that even more. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's important not to attempt to control my patient's experience of what happened to them. I start with where they are, not where I am. But I could imagine that the patient might end up where you are now, but that's not where they would begin. Okay.